Hello and good morning. Before we start this course, just a few housekeeping points. We've disabled all your microphones and cameras automatically to keep things running as smoothly as possible. With that in mind, please understand I am actually working from home, so I do have children and dogs, and hopefully no one knocks on the door. This webinar is being recorded, and you'll be sent a link at the end of the webinar, either later today or early next week, with the recordings available. We have the QA facility enabled, so if you have any questions at all during this webinar, please write them and we will put 10 minutes aside at the end to go through those. If you prefer to contact us privately, our contact details are included at the end of this webinar. As I mentioned, this is our second webinar on the 2 series. We did one last week. If you are interested in looking in more detail at the camera series available in the different chassis, please have a look at last week's webinar, as that will also help you, and we can forward that to you if you request. The people who did join us last week, please bear with us on the first few slides because we are repeating a few of the things that we went through last week. But we feel that this is important, and obviously some people are new to us this week, so we don't want them to miss out. But please be assured that near the after the first few slides, it does become new content. So for those of you who don't know LILIN, who are we? Well, we've been established since 1980, so this is actually our 40th anniversary this year. We were planning some big celebrations. Obviously, they're on hold at the moment. In 1999, we opened our premises in Milton Keynes, so our UK branch is actually over 20 years old now as well, and we've long been established as a central hub for our European operations. We've always made video surveillance products, and in 2008 we transitioned from analog to IP. In 2013 we delivered our first IP-based home automation driver. This was for Control 4, and we've developed a lot more drivers since then. We have over 500 employees worldwide and offices all around the world, including Malaysia, Italy, USA, Australia, amongst others. We're members of CIDIA, and we've been active members now for over 5 years, and we participate in their forums and training courses. Our training course, Surveillance for Custom Install, actually earns you 3.5 CEU points when you attend. We run these training courses throughout the year. Obviously, we will have to review this when we end lockdown, but if you are interested in training or courses, please contact a member of sales and we can talk about how we can amend this to suit your needs in the future. In 2017, we actually won the Best Training Course Award at the CIDIA Awards, which we're very proud of. You may already know us, if you haven't come across much of LILIN, through our home automation partners. We have deep integration with AMX, Control 4, Crestron, LILIN, Leroux, RTI, Savant, and URC, amongst others. And talking about the automation drivers, this is just a slide here that shows how many drivers we actually have. So if I look at Control 4, we have deep drivers for cameras, NVRs, DVRs, and even our navigator server systems. I'll just pull another random one out. So RTI, again, we have full drivers for the cameras, so you can view them on the panels around the house. And we also have an NVR driver. This means using your RTI panel, you can control the HDMI output out of the NVR and view up to 16 or 32 cameras on your TV. One of our latest additions is Leroux, where we have the ability now to be able to display our cameras on your Leroux display. So today is about the 2 series though. So last week I covered the difference between what the P2 and Z2 means. So P being fixed lens, and Z being an auto zoom, autofocus lens option. So varifocal. All models again are available in 2 megapixel, so 1080p and 5 megapixel variants. They all use the Sony Starvis sensor for ultra low light performance, and this is exceptional in color as well. And they also have multiple stream options, lower bandwidth, adjustable IR, and SD SD recording. Today, the session focus will be StarViz, multiple streams, lower bandwidth, adjustable IR, privacy masks, smart alarms and features, SD card recording, and security. So let's start with StarViz, ultra low light performance. As mentioned, the 2 series comes with the StarViz sensor. This is made by Sony, and it's actually a back illuminated sensor. It creates second to none low light color images. I'll just run a little video here that actually highlights the difference between a StarViz camera and a non-StarViz camera in different scenarios. So the image on the left is our StarViz 2 series camera, and on the right is a non-StarViz camera. So I've mentioned quite a few times already during this webinar that we are particularly proud of the low light color images. Here you can really see the difference, just how dark this area is and how well the camera on the left hand side, the 2 series camera, is performing, even with hardly any light. So Sony actually rate their sensors using a signal to noise ratio chart. The lower the number, the better the sensor. So our 2 megapixel 1080p cameras use the IMX327 StarViz sensor, and as you can see, the number here is very low, meaning we have the use of a very, very good sensor in our 2 series cameras. I'm just going to go over an extract from the video you've seen previously, just to highlight the differences. So this time, the right-hand side is the 2 series LILIN camera, and on the left is a non-StarViz camera. Just to give you an idea of how dark this area is, I'll actually bring up another image underneath. We can see here, this is our target here, and this is just how well the camera is performing. Another short video for you. Again, StarViz 2 series on the right-hand side and a non-StarViz on the left. In color mode again, look how crisp the image on the right-hand side is. We're using a P-Iris lens on this one for a greater depth field as well. The final video in this short sequence is a 24-hour time-lapse video from our Milton Keynes offices in the UK. We have lighting adequate that we don't need to go to monochrome mode, so it's color all night. And you can see how the camera adapts to all the varying conditions throughout the day. We seem to have 4 seasons in one here in the UK, so everything from sunshine to rain. And obviously this was before lockdown, when we used to be able to socialise and see other people. So that's the sensor. I'm going to now look again at multiple streams and explain a little bit about the streams for you. So what do I mean by multiple streams? Well, the 2 megapixel 1080p camera can perform 2 megapixel at 60 frames per second. But the problem is with this, if we want the 60 frames, we can only have 1 encoder or stream output. These cameras are capable of streaming up to 4, so quadruple streaming at once. So let's drop this 2 megapixel 60 frames down to 30 frames and look at what else we can achieve. So our first stream, 30 frames, 2 megapixel, is for a LILIN recorder, for instance, or high resolution display. We can then enable a 720p output at 30 frames. So this is ideal for a Control 4 or other home automation platform that's available to take a 720p stream, giving you a higher resolution image on your display. Third stream, 480p stream, again at 30 frames. So we could use this for our multiplexed image on NVRs, or alternatively for control systems, or even mobile viewing, so for our app. Our final stream is a SIF D1 stream at 30 frames per second, and this is used for low bandwidth mode, or even old control systems that can only handle lower resolutions. So this summarizes it for you. We have our quadruple streaming. So our main stream here, What I didn't mention is we can actually choose on the stream now between H.265, H.264 or JPEG. So we could say we're using a H.265 recorder. So let's put our 1080p stream, 2 megapixel, in H.265 mode, but our control system can only see H.264. So we'll set the 720p stream to H.264. Now, because we're connected to a recorder, we'll make our 480p H.265 as well. And then finally, our SIFT-D1 stream is only available in JPEG. This is what it looks like in the camera menu itself when you're setting the encoder or stream. So we can select the resolution, the profile, H.264, H.265, the individual frame rates and bit rates per stream stroke encoder. There's also a really nice link at the bottom of each one, the RTSP stream commands, and this can be really helpful when you're copy and pasting them into your control systems. The 5 megapixel camera, though, is slightly different to the 2 megapixel, so I want to highlight some of the differences. Again, it's quadruple streaming, but if we choose to go for the full maximum resolution, our 5 megapixel image, we have 25 frames per second. Again, we can select whether we want H.265 or H.264 or even JPEG, but note, my second output here is not 720p, it's 720 by 576 at 15 frames per second. So again, we can use this with a compatible control system. I then have my 480p stream and my JPEG stream. If I want to set my second stream to 720p, what I need to do is drop my main stream down to 4 megapixel. I now achieve 30 frames per second if I wish. So my LILIN recorder is recording a 4 megapixel 30 frames per second stream, and now I'm achieving my 720p for my control system. And of course, I still have my 480 and my SIF. Another great feature of LILIN cameras is it doesn't matter really whether you go for a 2 megapixel or 5 megapixel or even different ranges. Our GUI often looks completely the same or only very slight differences. So once you familiarize yourself with one, you understand how to operate them all. So lower bandwidth next. I've already mentioned numerous times already H.265, but let's imagine a LILIN camera set to H.264 at 2 megapixel. We're going to stream generally about 4 megapixels per second. Using H.265, because the codec is newer and more efficient, we can reduce that bandwidth down to roughly about 50% depending. So we could achieve the same quality video at 2 megabits per second. How does that affect costs and things like recording? Well, 30-day storage of a 2 megapixel camera running at 30 frames, we generally recommend to our customers that they install a 1 terabyte hard drive. So H.264, 1 terabyte recording for 30 days. Of course, if we use H.265, we'll be saving space because our bandwidth is lower. So we could actually, with a 1 terabyte drive, achieve 60 days recording, or of course, reduce our hard drive capacity down to 500 for 30 days. Adjustable IR. So now we're getting into a few of the features of the cameras that I didn't highlight last week. So what do I mean by adjustable IR? Don't confuse this with Smart IR. Smart IR is available on our 4K series cameras and some of the other series. But what I mean by adjustable IR is here we have our IR ring. And what I can do is I can adjust the strength of the IR between a percentage of between 0 and 100%. So I can actually change how effective and how bright the IR source is going to be. Most of our P2 and Z2 cameras have 2 IR LED arrays. They have a wide angle and a narrow beam angle. And these generally range from 90 degrees to 60 and on our bullets and domes, and from 50 to 30 degrees on our Z2 turret cameras. Our ZR8052 and 8022, the big 100-meter IR chassis that we do, offers a massive 5.3 to 130 millimeter lens. So it's got a great distance that this can achieve. So obviously it's slightly different with regards to IR power. This camera actually has two different IR LED arrays. It has the first IR LED array that we can set independently. So if I set this one to 100, my wide angle, my 45-degree angle IRs will come on, and they can achieve up to 70 meters in distance. I could then select that I don't want the wide angle and actually only turn on the narrow angle LEDs. So my LEDs have changed. These are 22-degree beam angle and can achieve up to 200 meters in distance. Or of course, I can choose to have them both on at the same time. And I can drop these to a level that's suitable for the application. So if we imagine here's my camera, I turn the first load of IRs on, the wide angle, I can achieve up to 70 meters. My second beam, I can achieve up to 200. So you might be thinking, why don't we call it a 200-meter IR camera? The reason we call it 100 is because we take the average for this. It's also worth highlighting that if we chose to have a target that was, say, 120 meters away, and we kept the camera in a wide angle mode, so we were viewing wide, the IR obviously is centered here. But more than most, if you were choosing to do something that far away, you'd obviously be using the zoom ratio of the lens, so you'd be achieving a narrow angle anyway. But I thought I'd highlight that for you. As well as IR, we have something called smart day-night. So like previous models, these cameras have the ability to be able to stay in color mode or stay in monochrome mode, night mode if you wish, or even schedule. So you can actually set a time. And of course they have the auto switching. So when we meet a certain lux level, the camera will switch. Unlike previous series though, where you can't adjust the level that this switch is at, we have here the ability to be able to change the threshold, so the switching level of these cameras. We use our own light sensor current level, which is adaptive. So as the lights change, as the light condition changes, this adjusts. On the right here, I have a table. So at the moment, we have a light sensor level of 100. Now this means we're displaying over 16 lux. So we don't then keep going up with our light level. Anything over 16 lux is 100 on our scale. And I've told this camera here that I want it to switch from day to night mode at 37. So if we look at our sensor level here, 37 means that at 6 lux, this camera will switch to monochrome. But I might not want it to switch back when we get above 6 lux. I might want it to stay into monochrome to a further level. So here I've said don't actually switch back until we achieve 62 on the LILIN sensor level, which is 10 lux in the lux environment. So I've run a short video here to highlight this. So here's my current light sensor level, which is 100. I'm going to just start the video. I then turn off the lights within this building. Give it a second for the camera to adjust, and we can see that my current light sensor level is now 21. It hasn't switched to monochrome. The reason it hasn't switched is, as you can see here, I've said that I don't want my camera to switch until I get to the LILIN sensor level 6, so actually 1 lux. So I'm happy with the color image here, so I don't want it to switch. So we have a huge flexibility in these cameras: adjustable IRs, adjustable day-night switches. This short video was taken outside of in my back garden to highlight how effective the 2 series is in monochrome mode with IR, because everybody always raves about the color mode, and the color mode is fantastic, but it's also a very good camera when using IRs. So this is the view with the lights on, so it's a very dark back garden. The left-hand side is our Starviz 2 series, and the right-hand side is a non-Starviz camera. You can see the quality of the Starviz camera in comparison. I then ran the same test, but with the lights off, so it's a really dark environment in my garden, hardly any natural lighting at all. And the left-hand side, our 2 series camera performs very, very well. Privacy masks. The cameras are equipped with the ability to be able to create a privacy mask. We can have up to 4 zones per camera. These zones are set like you can see on the screen. It's important to remember with this that once the privacy zone is set and the video is recorded, you cannot then take off the privacy zone from the previous recording. It is embedded onto the video. IVS, smart alarms and features. So intelligent video solutions. These cameras, of course, come equipped with motion detection. Every camera does these days, but as well as motion detection, we have advanced alarms such as tripwire. So here in this video, I've set up some tripwires. A tripwire is a line that once broken, once someone crosses, creates the alarm output for us. We can draw up to 8 areas on our screen, or we can even do a rectangle. So we could actually encompass a car to put us surrounded around it, or your property. So when that line is broken, it creates the alarm. The next alarm we have is a digital input. So some of the cameras have a digital input. What I've done here is wire it into the alarm. So as I press the doorbell, it creates a digital input, which creates an alarm for me. Audio alarm, camera speaking to the audio. We have a threshold that we can set for the audio level. When that's broken, it will create an alarm. Tamper-proof, if somebody is violent to the camera, sprays it, moves it really quickly, or focuses really quickly, or covers it, it will create a tamper alarm for us. Advanced motion, here, if you select advanced motion, you won't get the normal, unlike conventional motion, you won't trigger as many false alarms during nighttime conditions. Now, the reason that's not standard is if you choose advanced motion, you can't have some of the other alarm features. And then finally, we have people count, object counting here. So every time the line's passed in a direction, you can see the counter moving up. And as it's passed in the other direction, the counter comes down. And we can use this and export the data every hour or every day if we wish for football. So that gives you an idea of the alarms that we can create using this camera. So on the left-hand side, we can see I have IVS here. I enter IVS mode and I choose what IVS I want, whether it be tripwire, people counting, and so on. Here I've selected motion detection. So with motion detection, I get motion detection, I get my tamper as standard, my audio, and my DI, my digital input alarm detection, and also a network detection. Smart event mode means that I can actually set up to 5 different events to trigger an alarm. So for instance, I might say alarm detection. So my digital input, I want to trigger the alarm. Another not useful, nice feature here is imagine we've set motion detection and I choose this not. So what that's going to do is it's going to look for when it's not motion and create the alarm. So I could use this in a warehouse where I'm using a conveyor belt. Obviously the conveyor belt's moving all the time. If that stops, I want to be alerted. There's no more motion because the conveyor belt stopped, I'll get an alert. So the first part of our smart event is actually creating the trigger. Once we have the trigger, we then need to select the action, so the output. We can schedule this action if we want, so we still receive the trigger between a certain time, but the action only happens when we're not in the office after 5 o'clock. The actions can be FTP service, SMTP, so an email, recording to SD card, Samba, alarm output, so we can turn on a light using a relay or a buzzer, HTTP post service, mainly used for our control systems, but also we can control other devices that take HTTP post, SNMP trap service, and finally a push service. So this is for our push service for our push notifications on our mobile applications, so on our app. I'll just jump back one to our trigger. It's also worth mentioning on the trigger that we can actually set up dual alarms as well as conditions. So what I mean by a dual alarm is I could say I want to receive motion, but also an alarm input from a separate PIR detector. And what we can do here is say, unless both alarms are triggered at once, we don't create our action. So this could eliminate things such as false positives, motion detection. I mentioned about the outputs that we have, so the notification events, and I mentioned email, SD card, amongst others. HTTP post, I just want to touch on a little bit more. So for your control systems, we actually have up to 25 HTTP posts available that you can pre-program. But as well as control systems, you can also control other devices. So for an example, a LILIN speed dome camera. So we could enter the IP address of our speed dome camera, and then under our command, we could tell it to move to a preset. So our normal camera that's looking at the front door receives a motion alarm. Our speed dome that's installed on the other corner of the building gets a HTTP post from our camera and swings around to a preset position, also looking at the front door. Other features that the camera has, as well as smart alarms and IVS, HDR, high dynamic range. This sensor actually provides a high dynamic range of up to 120 decibels. So if you look at the picture on our left, it's a very, very nice image. However, what we can't do is see inside the building. So if I turn the high dynamic range on, I can see both outside and inside. It is worth mentioning though, that if you decide to turn the HDR function on, you cannot then do quadruple streaming. You lose your second stream. So you would effectively lose your 720p stream to your control system. Okay, so bear that in mind. We also have backlight compensation area mask. So now we can actually draw an area within the camera that we want to use backlight compensation on. So in this image here, I have a very bright light ruining the rest of my target image. So I'm going to go in and draw an area over that light. Once I do this, have a look at the rest of the image, what happens. So now I can see everything within my image by using the backlight compensation area. I'll show you that in another scenario. Here, look here, you can't see anything in the foreground of this image because of the bright lights in the background. So I draw my areas down here and everything comes into focus here now. So we can see, so I'm able to draw areas. So two different scenarios that you could use the backlight compensation. Here, I'm actually going to use wide dynamic. Now I'm showing you wide dynamic because you might want to use wide dynamic because you've chosen to have the fourth stream, so quadruple streaming, meaning the high dynamic range isn't available to you. So auto, we can see what's happened. I brought this into focus, but I then have the ability down here to be able to increase my wide dynamic ratio. So as I increase it, we can see things like the boxes down here now coming into our scene, and we can see them as well. I do apologize for the quality of the video on this one, but I had to use TeamViewer at a low bandwidth because I didn't have access to the office, I'm afraid. That's the same with a lot of these videos. I do apologize. If we were in the office, we could achieve far greater quality videos. This is another example of wide dynamic. It's not always used for bright windows. Here on the left, we have no wide dynamic on. On the right-hand side, we have our wide dynamic on. Under a bridge, creating a big shadow. We can see the difference here. We can now see all these people by turning wide dynamic on. So these are features that have always been available, wide dynamic, but you might not know were there. The last menu I'm going to look at is the overexposure reduction. So here my target is this number plate, but I have a really bright light hitting it. This could be such as a floodlight or a car headlight. So I turn the overexposure reduction on, and now my target, what I want to see is the number plate. SD card recording. The 2 series cameras work with SD cards up to a massive 1 terabyte in size, so 1 terabyte of onboard storage. And this is a micro SD card that is available. This means you could achieve up to 60 days recording on H.265 at 30 frames. And on a 5 megapixel camera, you can achieve 30 days. And that's continuous recording. In this short video, I've set up a complete scenario for you. So I've drawn some tripwires by my areas. I've then gone into my event. It's a slightly older camera, but the principles are the same. And I've said, when the tripwire happens, please record to the SD card. In my SD card record settings, I don't need to set continuous record because I've chosen to record on a motion event. And I've also chosen to record encoder 1, so the 1080p image, 2 megapixel. I've then got a really easy tree that I can look at recordings from, and I choose the recording and we can see straight away here, this was Jasmine entering the building pre-lockdown. Now I can view my recordings from my SD card from the web browser like you saw here, or I could do it from a client, or also from my mobile app, so LILIN Viewer or LILIN Home coming shortly. Security. We are a Taiwanese company, so we're focused on ensuring cybersecurity of all our products. We work with companies such as Leroux to test both new and old products and test for vulnerabilities continuously so that we can prevent any weaknesses. One new policy, for instance, is that you'll be forced to set a new password the first time you use a device, so there are no more default passwords. The cameras also feature IEEE 802.x, HTTPS, IP and MAC address filtering for added security. We don't just protect the security of your products though, we also try to protect you by having a price protection policy. You will never find a LILIN price online that isn't our recommended MSRP. If anyone wants to actually publish prices online, they have to sign up to our agreement on this. So why LILIN? Well, I've already run through the 2 series, so you can see how great this camera is, but why should you choose LILIN? Well, we are the only CI-focused manufacturer in the world. We work alongside all the leading home automation platforms to ensure that when things such as our firmware change, it won't affect your system. So you're safe in the knowledge knowing that future developments won't affect your system performance. Our drivers allow deep integration for both of our IP and AHD product range, and we have over 250 camera models ranging from 2 megapixel to 4K. We can offer everything from a simple camera to enterprise solutions with hundreds of cameras and large TV walls. We have a huge platform of online resources, including our knowledge base, and our technical support is unparalleled. Our sales staff are available for support with product specification or quotations, and we can also offer on-site support specifying projects that have unique requirements. So I'm going to open this up and have a look at a few of the questions that you've put. Our contact details are on the screen for you to have a look at as well. So bear with me while I go to our Q&A. Not many questions today, which is nice. Last week we had far more. Let me just read this. Okay, so Stephen Browning has asked, is there anywhere we can go to get more online training on the LILIN products? These webinars are great, thank you. But we wondered if there was a place we could go to further our skills. We are always looking at ways to improve our training, and obviously because none of us can predict what's going to happen in the future with social distancing and COVID. When we return or when we have a few meetings, we'll be looking at increasing our online training resources for you, and also trying to do more webinars in the future. A little teaser for you. I know that a lot of you are interested in things like temperature cameras. We actually have a webinar in a few weeks on our new temperature camera solution. So as I said, it's an ongoing thing where we will try our hardest. If there's anything in particular that you would like to look at, Stephen, please email one of the contacts that are available and we'll have a look at that for you. We have a question from Andre here. How do you get the differences between the 2, 3 and 5 series? Well, this webinar and last week's webinar have been on the 2 series cameras. We actually haven't released officially in the UK yet, the 3 and the 5 series. But if you'd like to contact us, we will send you a spreadsheet, Andre, with all the differences between the 2, 3 and 5 series, highlighting the major differences for you. Another question here, is a 2 series available to purchase now? Yes, it is. And you can get these from your local LILIN branch or authorised distribution outlets. Okay, I'll leave it for a few more seconds if anyone's got any questions. Okay, as I did mention at the beginning, we will be sending a copy of this webinar to you anyway, so expect that either this afternoon or early next week. In the UK, we actually do have a bank holiday tomorrow for Victory in Europe, so I hope that all of my UK viewers here enjoy that long weekend, and to everybody else who has joined us, thank you for joining us. I hope you all stay safe and your family stay safe, and I hope we can all return to normal soon. Thank you very much.